Button. Hit the button.
I did hit the button.
Hit it.
Hit it real good. So,
and what day of the week is it, Brad? Is it next week yet?
It's something. It is a day. So I read this headline, and that when you tweeted it out, and I'm going to tell you my response. You wrote, "Coalition takes on Apple App Store policies," and my initial thought was, did they find out they had oil?
Wow.
Yeah.
So I should have been like the coalition.
Yeah.
Then it could have been a Gears of War joke.
Yeah. It could have been. You could take that pun many different ways.
I'm too tired to do puns, but yeah, okay.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah, here we are. Anyway, so Coalition is going to invade Apple's store policies and try to liberate some percentages, I'm guessing.
I feel like developers are starting to smell the blood in the water, and that with all these antitrust and legal cases against Apple, like now is the time to strike, you know? And what's interesting about this to me, of course, is the reaction that different people have. There are people in our comment section, Brad, every day who are like, I don't know why you're so, but Apple, they can do whatever they want, 30%, you know? And it's like the thing people don't understand, obviously, is anything, because what Apple does is gross. But I mean, as far as the argument that like, why all of a sudden are they complaining, is they've been complaining forever quietly, but what they've been afraid of is retribution.
Yeah, these were bar conversations, like two guys sitting around when we could go, hang out together, be like, what, I really hate
something about Apple, you know. But now that some big companies, Sonos, Spotify, Epic, Tile, Basecamp, have finally stood up and complained, something's going to happen. Something good's going to happen. It's going to be good for everybody. It is bizarre to me that anyone would worry otherwise about this. The only concern is that this stuff changes. I don't know. So anyway, I don't know exactly what the coalition does, other than give a place for other developers to kind of come in and join, and then they can say, look, there are 11,000 developers, or whatever the number might be.
Yeah, it's like a petition.org thing, but for companies.
But for But I mean, it takes these companies who actually have money to kind of show up and say, look, we're going to take a stand, and then you're going to get individuals and small developers and. The guys have been quietly sucking it up, every time they hand over 30% of their well-earned money to a company that basically did nothing.
Yeah. Well, to me, and I know we've talked about this, we don't need to berate the point, but this did not become a problem, at least for me, for the most part, until Apple entered the services business. As soon as they launched Apple Music, then this becomes a problem because they're giving themselves that massive advantage. And then it becomes a problem with fitness. It becomes a problem with arcade. It becomes a problem with news.
I would say you're right. I mean, it becomes more of a problem. I mean,
more of a problem.
If Apple didn't have Apple Music, but you're still taking 30% from Spotify every single month that company bills a customer, that's still a problem.
Yeah.
That's just unfair. That is literally the equivalent of people walking down the street, going into a shop in the 1930s and saying, give me my monthly fee. I'm protecting you from the other guys like me. And then they go to the next shop and they take their 30%. They go to the next shop. It is literally like that level of nonsense. And whatever. The problem is, you can do whatever you want when you're small, and when you're big, the rules change. And 30% was cute when the iPhone was a cute little thing on one network, and who cared? But now it's 50% of usage in the United States, and it's 85% or whatever the number is, 75% or 65%, whatever, of the revenues that happen over mobile. So it's a problem. And yet, like you said, it's gotten worse over time. What you described is only one of the ways in which it's gotten worse over time. Apple has now started going to companies who do have subscriptions, who have never advertised that back in their app, and have said, now you need to make sure that you advertise that back. And if they choose it, you have to give us the 30%. Like, they're actually going against app makers who are just being quiet about it. This has to change.
Other things that need to change too. This little Meet Now thing that Microsoft is going to shove down everybody's throat in the next build of Windows, which is just
wow.
I'm not a fan of this.
I mean, look, it's what was the thing they had down there? The people, what they call it?
The My People that never went.
My People, yeah. So that's one of those things. Like, when they announced it, I was like, I like the idea behind this, because it's that people-centric thing that Microsoft used to kind of promote with Windows Phone, and honestly, it dates back to the mid-1990s. But whatever, I like that kind of approach. The problem is Windows Phone. third-party developers didn't extend it with useful things for you to do from that hub, and they got rid of it. So it kind of came and went. It wasn't a problem because it didn't get in the way, and you could remove it if you didn't want it, right? So people removed it or ignored it or whatever. So I kind of view the what is it called? Meet
now or whatever. It's being A/B tested, which is whatever.
Yeah, meet me or maybe don't meet me, depending on who you are. Yeah. We will see something similar. So if this makes it easier to communicate with the people you can't see in person anymore, I don't think it's a problem. If you can remove it like you could with My People, which I'm sure you will be able to, it's no problem. It's okay. Yeah. It's better than an Edge. I've had Edge as my default for months. I just got a little pop-up. Hey, don't forget.
Yeah, I've had that too.
Give this one a shot. It's on the icon. It's on my taskbar that is configured as my default browser. I mean, come on, Microsoft.
Yeah, I don't know why they even call it Skype anymore. I mean, they just need to kind of like...
Yeah. Well, that's probably going to change, right?
I would think. I mean, Skype used to be a really powerful brand, and maybe it still is, but that's... I
don't know. I feel like, unfortunately for Microsoft, the pandemic has kind of sealed its fate.
So I had a great headline this morning, and I'm going to talk about it because I think it's so great.
Okay.
So Microsoft sort of quietly announced that Teams is going to be getting this new feature that will allow you to do webinars.
Okay.
So hold on, let me find my post because I want to make sure I get it right. Twitter. Anyway, so the feature's coming. It's going to roll out later this year. And we use a platform on Petri called GoToWebinar, which I think is owned by LogMeIn, which I think is owned by somebody else. But it's like it's sort of like the de facto.
It all goes back to Viacom, Brad. Don't worry about it.
To Viacom. But anyway, so there's like GoToMeeting, there's GoToWebinar, and so my headline was Microsoft Teams will soon become your Go-to webinar solution.
Yikes.
Tell me that's not perfect.
Well, we just talked about Apple and how they kind of abuse their market position. I mean, at some point with Teams, you're like, I mean, I will say, I mean, and you know this because you've kind of seen some of it, I guess, or whatever, at least seen the effects of it. Like I recorded these interviews this week for some folks for this Microsoft 365 thing, and the recording and posting to streams and sharing with it's all just kind of there, and I said this sometime yesterday, I don't remember, but we used to talk about how Teams kind of replaced Microsoft Outlook, but that's a ludicrous thing. It's so much more than Microsoft Outlook ever was. I mean, it's incredible what's there, even the video thing. I scheduled all that stuff in the calendar that was in Teams, I mean, it gives me a join thing when it's time to start, and it records, and it's the whole thing is kind of incredible. You can do file access from there. So if we're sharing files inside of our company, they're there. You don't have to go to SharePoint or OneDrive for your business, wherever you put them. I mean, it just keeps going and going. Like, it's crazy. Plus, we never really talked about this yesterday, by the way. So Ignites this week.
Oh, yeah, that thing.
We didn't discuss it yesterday. They released like 1,000 new features for Teams. Like, not literally.
I want to qualify that. I want to qualify that. They announced about 1,000 new features for Teams. Yeah. They will show up sometime between now and when they do.
And Infinity. Yeah, no, that's true. That's true. Yeah, I know. But they were actually pretty good about availability on features, which they aren't always, but also they were not this time 100%. Like, some of the stuff is not clear. But anyway, Teams is incredible. I don't know what else to say. It really is.
Yeah, so you kind of start to wonder, going back to the antitrust conversation. Now, I don't think Microsoft's there yet, maybe. Right. But like, look at this. They just, once this feature rolls out, provided it has the same level of fidelity as GoToWebinar, a company like ours will probably end our...
Of course, we're already paying for it. Right, why would you pay for something else? And that's I think that's the sticky issue overall for any conversation about this kind of thing. And it's probably also the type of thing that leads. Can you hear that?
Yeah.
Hold on one second.
Is that GoToWebinar dying in the background?
Out of here. Get it. It's like this comes in and starts yelping in my room. Anyway.
Yeah, no idea what that's like.
So obviously when you look at like you pay for Microsoft 365 and you're like, okay, they've replaced Slack, whatever. Now they've done all this other stuff. Like, oh, this is kind of dumb. I should obviously be using this all the time for everything. As they start chipping off other things, like we just made this case, like what a great benefit. But at some point, when Teams does, the 180 little peripheral things that we were maybe paying or not paying other companies to do, we're all going through this tunnel vision kind of team vision thing. Yeah, I mean, there are questions. There's no doubt about it.
It becomes, when does it
when do you cross the line?
When do they just kill an entire market because they have such massive dominant market share with their platform?
Yep. Yeah, we used to use something called Basecamp.
Technically,
I guess
still
project organization. Do we still use it? We shouldn't, because all that stuff's built into Microsoft 365.
I feel like I've been preaching that for a while.
Yeah, I mean, you and I both at different times kind of nudging people in this direction. I mean, we, and more you than me. But I mean, I've also long ago. I mean, we were like, we should be on Microsoft, guys. We should be on Microsoft. It doesn't always work. I mean, we tried Teams. I don't remember when it was, a year and a half ago or something, and it didn't work.
Longer than that. It was like 2.5 years ago at this point, I think.
I don't remember, but now, no problem. And by the way, now it's better. Like in the beginning, it was like, we'll put up with this a little bit. It's not the same, obviously, but it's it's a little more inefficient in some ways. Now, are you kidding me?
Now it's impossible for us to go back.
It's unbelievable.
It's deeply embedded. I guess the counter argument to the potential like antitrust is that, hey, G Suite exists and people in G Suite need all these features and extensibility and all that stuff. But
yeah, they do. That's true. They do. And pricing is similar. They have all the they're starting to go down that Google Meet path now where they're going to add all that stuff. It does exist, but it rings a little hollow, because saying that G Suite exists kind of reminds me of Microsoft saying that the Mac existed in 1999 or 2000 or whatever. Yeah, they did, but I mean, they tiny market share compared to Microsoft. So I don't know. I mean, to me, Microsoft is, I was going to say, not as terrible as these other companies. Maybe that's not even fair to say, but they're absolutely going after. They're seizing on the success of Teams. I mean, there's no doubt about it. I don't know. I feel like with Outlook, it stopped. Like Outlook started as Schedule Plus. It was like calendar and tasks and probably user management too. I would contacts. And then they added email. It was like, oh my God, look at this thing. It's like, and they have like a today view, and it's, but that was kind of the extent of it, right? Like, obviously they put integrations in there, so it's more easier to work with like OneDrive files and blah, blah, blah. But as far as like it expanding out beyond its purview, Outlook has been the same for 20 years, really. Teams hasn't been the same for 2 weeks. It's incredible. That's all.
We will see. It is definitely growing and expanding. There were a bunch of other announcements. You can find a bunch of them on the IT Pro site over on Petri, like the Surface Hub 85-inch coming available. I think you can pre-order it now. You can go grab yourself you can't grab an Xbox. But you can go pre-order a Surface Hub 2 if you want.
If you've got $22,000 sitting burning a hole in your pocket and want one of the biggest, nicest looking screens I've ever seen, you like to walk up to a big screen and touch it, you can do that. Can draw on it with a pen, not a real pen, folks. Don't be dumb.
Use a Sharpie instead. You'll be all right.
Yeah. It's a Sharpie. Don't be that guy. Yep. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff. We're doing Mary Jo and I are speaking with Stephen Rose as part of the Ignite thing. I think it's at noon ET on Friday, and it's going to be just about Teams. They could have done, this show could have been just Teams. Like the amount of announcements they made at this supposedly truncated Ignite was as big as any Ignite. If they had just kept it to Teams, it almost would have made sense.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
It really is.
Incredible.